Buongiorno, buonasera, benvenuti amici, welcome my friends. My name is Vincenzo and welcome to my channel, Fountain Pen Therapy. Well, this is another weekly recap. It's February 23rd, 2024, and what I propose is that we take a look at some news, some trends in the fountain pen world, and more particularly in my fountain pen world as well. Obviously, I've got to give you a personal twist to this recap and give you my own experiences, my own thoughts, my own opinions. It's just part of the show, if you will. So far, very receptive. I thank you very, very much for your support. I'm going to continue doing this just because I think it's a lot of fun. Mind you, it's a lot of work, but you know what? It's fountain pen therapy for all of us. Now, what I thought I'd do for this weekly recap is kind of change things up a little bit. Rather than follow the sequence of items and subjects that I've done in the past, 3 or 4 episodes, I plan to change it up a little more, maybe just mix some of the items or some of the titles and deal with them all at the same time and really go by more things of interest and then go by titles or subjects, if you will. Having said that, let's look at some news and some trends, at least the ones that I've been able to discern so far, February 23rd, 2024. First of all, let's take a look at Chinese pens. Where are we with Chinese pens? Well, one thing I've noticed, it's a little slow. I recall that at the latter part of 2023, Dieman was coming out with pens. Jinao were coming out with pens. It was almost non-stop, I recall. And now I would say to you that it's a little bit quiet on the Chinese fountain pen front. Some of it may be explained by the New Year, the Chinese New Year that they've just finished celebrating in February. And I know from what I understand, some of the enterprises just shut down during that period for a couple of weeks, similar to what we do in Christmas and other holidays, if you will. So that kind of may explain things, and maybe after the holidays they're gonna, come back with vengeance. We shall see. But that's one of the things that I've noticed. Now, what I have noticed in terms of what novelties have I seen in the Chinese pen world, if you will. First of all, Pen BBS has finally come up with a pen. Now, I know their store was closed. The official store on Etsy was closed down during the Chinese New Year celebrations. I think they just opened up this week, and I was able to see that finally that Year of the Rabbit pen has come out, 2023. In fact, there have already been 3 reviews, and I'll put them up on the screen. There's Inquiring Minds has done a review even before the store shut down. Same thing for Chris Rapp 52, and just most recently we have JG3 who's come up with some reviews. You'll have them up on the screen. One of the things that I noticed about this pen is there are 2 versions. There's kind of a gold grayish pale colored, and the other one is kind of a light blue. They also appear to come into 2 different price points, if you will. There's one with the calligraphy nibs, number 12 and number 4, if I'm not mistaken, that is priced at $127 Canadian. And then there's, I guess, what will be the standard nib, which is $107 Canadian. At least that's what I've been able to figure out. My own dilemma, of course, you see the pen on the screen, is whether or not I really like this pen and whether or not I want it to be part of my collection. I'm not overly impressed by its design, but I understand what I think all 3 reviewers to date are saying, that once you remove that ugly cap, the rest of the pen is really, really well balanced, and it gives a really nice writing experience. And those nibs are, Pen BBS quality nibs. So far I'm debating. I'm not sure whether they're worth even the $107. So I'm, debating whether or not I will take the jump. Now, in terms of other pens, well, let me just go to my overhead camera and show you what I've got to talk about. I'll remove this one for now. First of all, I finally got my Fully One. This is a Fully One carbon fiber pen. I gotta tell you, this is just an absolutely gorgeous pen. I really like this pen, folks. I'm going to be reviewing it in detail, so I don't want to spoil it, but take a look at that carbon fiber barrel. Really nice. It's got a springy clip. It's got a nice size, so stay tuned. I will be reviewing this pen soon. Other than that, I mean, we have my two AdMock videos, which, by the way, really took me by storm. Let me tell you, I put them on, and they're really popular and very controversial. It started with this AdMock M800, which is supposed to be I think, a clone of the Pelican M800, and, you know, right down to even providing a little sticker with a pelican on it. That's one, but, you know, with a Schmidt nib. And then the other one that I've just put up on, published, is this AdMock Dufold, if you will, which is, I think, is a copy of a copy. I think it's a copy of a Jinao, but, and both being a copy of Dufold. Very nice resin. I wish I had that resin in this M800. I couldn't find it. The M800s that do have that resin come in a Bock nib. I'm not sure I'm interested in a Bock nib. I would have preferred a Schmidt nib, but I might still take the jump. What, of course, this has helped me do is I'm presently debating on whether or not to buy an actual Pelican. Well, actually, I know I'm buying an actual Pelican. The question is whether I'm going to buy an M600, 800, or even the 1000. I got to tell you that M1000 really is really tempting. I mean, this is the 800 size, which is a nice size. Just right, I think. But I could imagine what that M1000 feels like. I'm really, 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 got to tell you, really tempted. One of the comments that surprised me about these two AdMocks, which I believe both have Schmidt nibs, is that some of my viewers are kind of questioning whether or not these nibs are fakes. I got to tell you, it got me worried, it got me wondering, because, well, a lot of comments said, they're not that expensive anyway, so it's, you know, they shouldn't, you know, jump or increase the price so much because of Schmidt nibs. But that's always the case. Whenever you get a Bock nib or a Schmidt nib, they always take advantage and charge you a little more. Now, are these fakes? Wow, I got to tell you, I'm a little bit concerned. I know that this is a medium. Yeah, this is a medium. It's a little more gold than this broad. And I'm just wondering whether or not that means anything. It's got me worried. I mean, they write like Schmidt nibs if they are fakes, but I guess we have to check that out as well. If any viewers have further insights on that, let me know, because that's one of the reasons why I got these pens, was because of those nibs. And I understand they're not the greatest nibs in the world, and they're not the most expensive. But having said that, if anybody has any news about fake Schmidt nibs, please let me know, because I'm certainly interested in knowing whether or not I got duped again. I'm taking out this Majon P138 again, just simply to say to you, I know that in my review, and look, I know that this is a knockoff, or put it this way, highly inspired by the Mont Blanc pen that looks exactly the same. I mean, what is it, Maurice Prou? I forget the exact name. I do mention it in my reviews and comments. But I wasn't too kind to this pen. I was kind of wishy-washy. But I've got to tell you, I used it all week, and I really liked this pen. So whatever I said about it that may be negative, I've changed my mind. It posts really nicely. It's got really nice weight. It's got just beautiful balance that Majon nib, medium nib, really is writing really nicely for me. Oh, actually, this is the fine. Yeah, this is the fine Majon, which surprised me. It's giving me these beautiful lines. And especially in my new adventure, which I'll deal with in a few minutes. As you may or may not know, I've decided to go on a handwriting adventure that has completely changed my handwriting, and this thing has been used and reused in my practice sessions, and also at the office. I also got a compliment at one of my meetings around a conference room table. So whatever I may have said negative about this pen, I kind of had to take it back because I'm really enjoying it. It's giving me a great writing experience. So I don't care what it costs me. I'm really enjoying this pen. So in terms of the Chinese market, that's essentially the trends and the news that I have for you. And not much more. I'm waiting for Andean to wake up. They've issued their Year of the Dragon pens, and I haven't heard from them since. At least I haven't seen anything. If anybody has seen anything from any of the other pen manufacturers, let me know. I'm really happy about this, this Fullerton. I really like it. So far, it really looks good. I'm going to be reviewing it, testing it, and you'll get my thoughts on it. But other than that, it's kind of a little bit dead, isn't it? So that's in terms of the Chinese. Now, I do want to mention a review, so I'll put it up on the screen. It's by Love of Pens review. It compared the 823 to the 743, and I just wanted to mention that my 823 is on its way. It's coming from Japan. I finally took the dive, so to speak, jumped at it, and I didn't realize the 743 and the 823 are kind of essentially the same pen with a different, with some differences. But because I believe one is a lot less expensive than the other. But I don't regret my choice. I think I like that vacuum and that transparent, smoky gray or brown section and barrel, etc. So I don't regret my choice at the end of the day. There's also, I started to see more reviews pop up on my YouTube channel just because I've did the research. So as you know, the algorithm kind of sends you the same type of videos. And I noticed, a lot of people are debating, do I get a fine? Do I get a medium, a broad? I got a broad just because, me, I like thicker lines. I don't think I'll regret it, but I'm really, really looking forward to receiving it. In fact, this morning I got a call from Federal Express wanting to know whether or not I want to pay my custom fees and duties that they charge here in Canada, along with sales tax, if I wanted to prepay, and that would kind of speed up things. And I did end up prepaying, so I think that it's basically around the corner. I should be receiving it any day now, and when I do, you'll be the first one to know. And then, of course, I've got to make a decision on my Pelican and see what I order there. And speaking of Pelican, I'll put up on the screen just a more recent review from Dan Williams, where he reviews his Pelican M1000, and it just caught me going, thinking that maybe I should take the jump. So these days I'm looking at all the Pelican M1000 reviews. I've kind of dropped the 600, 800 from my radar, if you will. And what I'm now got to decide in terms of material, there's not much in the standard M1000. I'm not going to buy a limited edition M1000. That's really going to cost too much. So it either comes in that kind of lined green barrel or kind of a simple black. That's in essence the standard choices they have. I think I'm going to go with the green and green lined pattern. And I got to decide, do I go with a medium or broad? I'm not going to touch the fine or the extra fine, just because from what I understand, the Pelican has a much wetter and a much thicker line than the Japanese pens have, like, for example, the A23. So I want to make sure that I'm not going to get a broad that's, a double broad. I've looked at some reviews. There's kind of some contradictions. I'm not sure what yet I'm going to go for. But if I do go for that M1000, I think I'm going to go with the broad again. But let me know your points of view. Let me know what you think. Is it messy? If I ordered the broad, is it too wet, too messy? Should I stick with the medium? Or should I go with the broad? Knowing full well that I don't like fines and I don't like extra fine. So I'd appreciate your thoughts if you have any. So that's another review that I did want to mention. In terms of inks, what have we got in terms of inks? Well, first of all, put up on the screen, Hemingway Jones has again a wonderful review where he reviews his 5 favorite blue inks. And I got to tell you, his choices are not bad. They're not bad at all, but they're typical of Hemingway Jones. I would tell you, he kind of classic fellow and a classic choice of blue inks, which leads me to look at, and I'm once again going to go to my overhead camera. Let me just put away these pens. I finally got in the mail, or have delivered, these wet pen inks from my friend Matthew at the Wet Pen. He does some, as you all know or may know, he does some wonderful reviews on inks. I think probably the best ink reviewer on YouTube today, with all due respect to all the others. I think he does a great job. I love his voice. I love the way he combines music and the way he edits his videos. All very nice. And he decided to do his own inks. So there's the packaging. Very nice packaging, I think. Simple, but very nice. He's got 3 blue inks because I think he's a blue ink guy. And take a look at this bottle. Isn't that wonderful? I think it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful bottle. I think it doesn't have, any of the problems where it doesn't stand, like Ferris wheel or some of the Robert Oster inks. I think it's beautiful, beautiful labeling. And he's got these 3 blue inks. So speaking of blue inks, I thought I'd give you a sample of these inks. And I prepared the swatches for you. I'm not going to waste your time doing the swatches online, but here are the 3 inks. Let me just see if maybe my light is too vibrant here. Yeah, this kind of gives you a better look. The first ink is Elliot Bain. By the way, I spelled Elliot wrong. It takes 2 T's. But you can see it's kind of a blue. I get the sense that Matthew doesn't like, or put it this way, it's not their favorite, the shimmering inks. He prefers to have like shading and sheen inks. But I may be wrong on that. But because it's reflected in his three inks here. As you can see, the first one is a beautiful combination of blue and green, a little bit of shading coming out of there, and it actually shows up in the handwriting as well. So that's the first one. That's Elliot Bay, and they're all, by the way, named after, from what I understand, Seattle sites, if you will. The second one is kind of a straight up blue ink with a little bit of red sheen. You can see the sheen there, and you can certainly see it in the writing as well. Very nice blue. Look at that beautiful blue. That's the Rainier blue. Nice, deep and classic blue. And by the way, all these inks are really nice. They're nice and saturated. They flow really beautifully, so recommended. And then the last one is kind of more on the green, and it's called Deception Pass. And as you can see, it's kind of a shade. Instead of a blue-green, it's more of a green-blue, if you will. And those are his 3 inks, and I thought I'd share that with you. Speaking of Hemingway Jones, well, here you have 3 kind of blue-shaded inks for you. And I don't know if he's still selling them or if he's run out, but if he's got these inks available, I really, really recommend them. They're very nicely priced, and I do want to encourage Matthew, just because I think if we do, he's not going to give up on this adventure, and he may just produce more or more inks, and I can tell you, Matthew, I'll be the first one to buy them. So there you have the ink. The other thing that I like to mention in terms of news and trends about inks, Ferris Wheel Press has got some 3 new inks, I believe, and I'll put them up on the screen. And there's also the reviewer who's reviewed. The problem with Ferris Wheel and even Waringal, they've come up with more, literature-based sort of inks. There's just too much shimmer in these inks, and as I mentioned to you in one of my previous recaps, I'm kind of losing patience with shimmering inks. Yes, I know I can put them in a TWSBI pen, or I can put them in pens that are, I can clean fairly quickly, but I'd like to be able to use them on a daily basis. And the colors are really nice, but because they have that shimmer, the pens clog on you, and halfway through the week, they're just not functional anymore. And you end up throwing away all the ink and washing them out. And it's just not, I realize they're just not practical. They're really nice, they're artistic and all the rest of it, but they're not practical. So be it the Waringal, the new Waringal inks, or even the Ferris Wheel, a lot of shimmer. But I'm going to take a look at all those new editions of inks, and I'm going to pick for you maybe 3 or 4 non-shimmering inks, and maybe even buy them, and then maybe we can do a review and a subsequent recap just to keep you up to date with what's out. What I'm really looking forward to, however, and I realize there's a little bit of shimmer, I just hope it's not too much, is the new Edelstein 2024 Golden Lapis. I'll put up on the screen just a picture of the ink. From what I understand, it's not available yet. Everything's on pre-order, and I'm going to order mine for sure. I think I do want to add this one to my collection, and as soon as I get it, you'll be the first one. We will review them. And speaking of inks, that deals with inks. What I'd like to discuss now is some new pens. What I noticed is, well, I took a look at, I ran into a review by JP Pen, put it up on the screen. He did a JP Pen and Ink, is the YouTube channel. He did or was it a she? Maybe it was a she, I forget now. The reviewer did a review of, I think it was a she, review of various nibs by Cypress, or what used to be called, I think, Mr. Cypress, and now is referred to as Cypress Pens. Some beautiful nibs, and I know these Cypress nibs have come up on numerous occasions in my comments, and it got me looking. And then I realized that in the last several months there have been quite a few reviews on Cypress pens that personally I had not heard of before, not because they're not popular. From what I understand, they are, but I just hadn't heard from them. They were a little bit off stream, if you will, at least for me. And then I saw a review by Penultimate Dave, Inquiring Minds, I think, did one, and Mick L did one as well. I'll put the 3 on screen there for you. Those reviews reviewed some beautiful pens. So you know what? I decided that I'm going to order one. And so I bought one. And I'd like to do an unboxing for you, if you will. So just bear with me. We're going to go to my overhead camera. I'm not going to go into detail with the pen because stay tuned. It's going to be a detailed review. But I will do an unboxing for you. So let me just get it. Where is it? I have it here somewhere. Here we go. There's that part. My apologies. I've got so many things here. Okay, here we go. Okay, so first of all, well, I'm not going to do an unboxing from the box or from the bag from Federal Express that I got. Okay, it comes in a bag and you tear the bag with a scissor or a knife. I'm not going to go through it. But when I opened the bag, these are the first three things that I noticed. First of all, they give you a gift bag. I guess this is meant that if you're going to give it as a gift, you have a gift bag already prepared for you, and they give you one of those. They give you some paper, okay? Paper that you could start your new adventure with the new pen, which is a nice touch. It's a little bigger than A5, I would say. and very nice. It looks like it may be Taiwanese paper, so I'm looking forward to taking a look at this paper and testing it. And it'll probably be tested in my review when I do a detailed review. And they also provide to you their brochure. And I gotta tell you, they got some just beautiful pens. I had not heard of this manufacturer before, and man, am I been missing. So now I'm going to go probably on a Cypress pen binge, starting with the one I've just ordered, and those nibs just look absolutely delicious. So I'm looking forward to looking at this brochure in more detail. Their website, there's so many pens, you got to go through them all. But you know what? I'm looking to buy a new one. And I'm going to let them know I exist. Maybe they'll send me a couple of pens to review, so I don't have to spend too much money on them. But this is what it comes with. First of all, it comes in the bag. It's like this. So this bedding, if you will, that I think accommodates the pen is on the outside, which I found curious. But then when you open the box, and look, I opened it already, so I had to kind of put it all back, and I didn't put it back the way it was. But you get the general gist. You get just a warranty notice, the guarantee, and it gives you the description and the date of the pen and the warranty period as well. So that's a nice touch. I have a little card, a business card for Cypress fountain pens. Nice touch as well. Then you open this up, and there is a box. Now the box is inserted nicely in this foam. So that's the box, and the box is just a beautiful box. So let me just undo this, because this sticker kept the box closed. Oops, it's upside down. So when you take a look at the box, very nicely done. I got to tell you, really nice touch. And this removes. It's got kind of a magnetic system, so it's magnets on the four corners, and you close your. So this is a box you can use, actually put your pens in. The pen comes. I had a kind of a foam here to make sure it doesn't roll like this, and this thing was wrapped up, etc. I guess this is the bedding that you can put back into the box once you've opened it up. Nice tube. I got to tell you, packaged. It was so well packaged, there was no way that this pen can come in damaged. Then, of course, you remove the pen. Oh, I think it had to. The tube the other way, actually. And it has this nice kimono. And it came in. Inside the pen came in another plastic paper sleeve, if you will, which I removed since. And here's the pen. Take a look at that pen, folks. Isn't that gorgeous? Very special material. I'm going to get into the review and explain to you all of that. But this thing is $90. I think it's $87 or $79. Anyway, less than $100. And what I decided to do is, instead of taking their standard nib, standard Jowo, or I think I had a standard Joe or a Bach nib, I decided to go in and get a Cypress 14 karat gold nib. So I will be reviewing that. In fact, the nib I think cost me more than the pen, but because I'm going to order other pens, I'm going to probably putting that nib on a more expensive pen from Cypress and put in it's got a Yowo unit system, so you can accommodate. I'm going to probably put just a regular Yowo in there. But take a look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? So that's it. I'm not going to give you more. Stay tuned for that way. You'll take a look at my review. Okay, how's that? It's a deal. It's a deal. So Cypress, keep that in mind. I'm just blown away. I think I'm going to end up ordering, I don't know how many more. But that's one other pen I ordered. I also ordered another VAZIR pen. I did want to mention that for you folks, that VAZIR pen, and you'll see it up on screen. I just ordered it, should be receiving it soon. And because I had a special request, I was looking into some of their nibs. I think I probably put on the screen also They got these beautiful nibs that they they emboss, etc. That I was looking for some information, so I wrote to them and explained to them who I was, etc. And that I have a YouTube channel and that I've reviewed their pens in the past, and I thanked him for it, etc., etc. And he was very, very kind and said in return he's going to be offering all of my viewers for the next until March 31st, 24. He says, here's a discount code. The above code can be used any number of times to buy fountain pens on VAZIR website until March 31st, 24. And that gives me permission to share the discount code with your viewers. And the discount code is FP, fountain pen, FP capitalized, therapy, small case, 10. So FP capitalized therapy 10, and I'll put it down in my description. You can get a discount if you purchase pens before March 31st, 24. And I welcome you. Take a look at the VAZIR website. They have some interesting pens at very, very, very reasonable prices. And I've ordered another one, and I will make kind of 4, I think I have from VAZIR. As you know, I'm interested in Indian pen makers. Now I'm interested in Taiwanese with Cypress. And there's other Taiwanese companies that we know of that produce pens as well. So having said that, that's the VAZIR pen that I've ordered. So in terms of news and trends, there you have it. Now, you got to help me, folks. Last time I asked for your help, I think I got one viewer that helped me. I'm looking into buying a Parker 51. Some of you might say finally. And I'm a little bit confused. Do I get the Parker 51 vintage? I don't like to get into vintage that much because I'm afraid might get screwed if, excuse the expression, if I buy one used and it, who am I buying it from, etc. Unless you know any sites that sell Parker 51s vintage versions, from reputable buyers. Do I get the Parker 51 vintage? Do I get the modern Parker 51? Do I get the steel nib? Do I get the gold nib? Or should I just try some of these Chinese knockoffs? I think this Wing Sung 601. We have the Wing Sung 601A, which is a little bit different, and the nib is different. You got the Hero 100. I think even Jinahao has a kind of a knockoff of the Parker 51 with that hooded nib. Give me your thoughts. What should I be doing here? Should I really go for the, I saw this Parker 51 modern version with that gold cap with a beautiful light blue, azure blue barrel. Looks gorgeous, but it's like $250. Is it worth the money? Should I be investing the money in that kind of a pen, or should I put my money elsewhere? Please let me know, so I'll stop looking or I'll continue to look. Okay, so that's okay. Give me a few seconds. I'm going to be back. I want to discuss where I'm at with my recent handwriting adventure, and I need to set up my desk a little bit better, so stay tuned. I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. Let me just have a sip of my cappuccino. For those of you who don't know, I've decided to go on a handwriting adventure. So what exactly is my challenge? Well, my challenge is that my handwriting, I'm not sure if you've noticed it, but I can certainly show you, well, even in this swatch, let me just cut overhead. You can see that my handwriting, my present natural handwriting is kind of, my wife says it's kind of gothic, but I'm writing vertically, not cursive slanted. It's really straight up. Okay, that's a handwriting I've had for, oh my God, I would say to you for the last 50 years at least. I mean, I'm in my 60s, so I decided that being in my 60s, I'm going to change my handwriting. So imagine. And my wife says, are you kidding? You can't, we can't change stripes on a zebra, and you certainly can't change stripes on a On an old zebra, it's even worse. So that's the challenge. I decided that I'm going to take a look at cursive and Spencerian. And, you've got Shaq MD, who gives you these beautiful handwriting sessions. You've got Hemingway Jones, who, in his own way, keeps talking about cursive and capital letters and cross-writing and how he studies handwriting and all. And I just fascinated. I said to myself, I got to look into this. I mean, why not? Why not? So I looked into it. So what was the step? Step one, I said, well, being who I am, I decided that first thing, I have to educate myself. So I did a lot of reading. I bought a bunch of books. And in my last review, you saw all the books that I bought. Tons of books, including, let me just go over at camera, which is probably the best one, I think, out of all the ones I bought. The Art of Cursive Penmanship by Michael Soul. In fact, I saw a couple of videos from Mr. Soul as well, where he gives kind of little courses and stuff on how to write. And I realized that, and look, I'm not going to summarize all the reading I did in just a few words, but essentially, I realized that I'm not a calligrapher, so I'm not going to get into calligraphy. So I kind of had two choices. Do I go with Spencerian script, or do I go with this, what they call the American Palmer cursive writing? And to show you the difference, let me just close up here on this book. This gives you the difference between, this is Spencerian, and this is the Palmer or American cursive, if you will, from what I understand. As you can see, and let me just, the Spencerian is a little more elaborate. When you take a look at Shaq MD doing his capitalized letters, especially, or some of the way he finishes his words, you could see there's a lot more curves in the capitalized letters, as you get a little more decorative. There's a lot of more lines, as compared to the Palmer version, which is a little more simpler and straightforward. I mean, I'm not here yet. I'm far away from here. So I figured I've got to do this in steps. So I said to myself, let's make sure that at the very least we're doing something close to the Palmer script. And then we'll kind of develop or move into a more Spencerian-like handwriting. And of course, I mean, folks, I've been writing this way for 50, 60 years. It's going to be difficult for me to all of a sudden become a Spencerian calligraphist. Okay, that's not the point. The point is to have, more fun and have fountain pen experience. Use these pens to make them write the way they should be written. Okay, and so I've got my own handwriting, so I'm going to give it my own twist, and and I'm not going to follow a script to the point where I tie my hands and that's the way it's got to be. I think I'm going to let my hand kind of flow and go with the flow and not handcuff myself. And to that end, what I realized in a lot of these books, again, cut to my overhead cameras, they have these practice sheets, where you practice letters. And I realized that I had no patience for that. I mean, they were asking me to for days and days and days work on the letter A and then the letter B and then I just, I said, what am I doing here? I don't have the time for it. And it was boring as all hell. I wasn't getting any fountain pen therapy by it. So I decided that the only way that I could learn is if I was permitted, not handcuff myself, just write words or maybe even full sentences and just practice. So I decided to drop the exercise books and all the exercises being recommended, and did you follow lesson 1, lesson 2, because I wasn't getting anywhere and I wasn't enjoying myself. So I decided, no, let's just take a notebook, get a pen, and just look at the lettering, how the lettering should be, and just practice, but with full sentences, and do your own thing. So that's what I did. Now, so I put aside the writing exercises, and the next job that I had to do is I realized that I had to decide, well, okay, what paper do I use? Do I go with Tomo River paper like this with a template in the back? Do I use a lined version? Do I use blank? Then I realized, in looking at some of the books I purchased, because the handwriting is slanted, one notebook had this this kind of pre-printed slanted lining. So you write in this small area, and it gives you the slant with dots, so you know how slanted your handwriting should be. Okay, and so I started with that, and here's the results I was getting. Okay, so I started, and what I realized though is that my handwriting was fairly large. I know those lines kind of got me to write fairly large, as you can see here. I mean, I was so caught up in making sure that I followed the slant, okay, that I kind of forgot about the size of the lettering itself. So that's where I started. So then I put aside this book, and I said, well, let me try to find another solution or another paper. And I decided to go with Rhodia graph paper. And for some reason, the squares were just too big. Again, I wasn't following the line properly, and I just didn't like what I was doing. I was practicing, and again, the handwriting just came out a little bit, I found a little bit too large for my taste, okay? And I wasn't happy with, the paper was nice, but I wasn't happy with the results, okay? But as you can see, at least I'm getting the slant in here. And, to the best of my ability, I'm trying to, make sure that I write the full word before I, for example, cross the T or dot the I, if you will. I had a tendency to write, when I got to the T, I would stop and cross the T and then continue the rest of the word. And that's not the way you should do it. You should, complete the word. When you finish the word, go back, cross the T, dot the I. So I went for Rhodia. I wasn't really happy, so I put aside these two. And I then went to these French ruled paper. And I bought this cheap version of the French ruled paper. And I started playing around with it. And I realized, because the lines are a little bit smaller, it got me to write a little bit smaller. And as you can see, my handwriting is kind of developing here. Okay? I'm not sure you can, but you'll see later on that, so the slant is there. I'm really enjoying it here at this point. I'm trying to get used to the A's, and I'm working on my capitalized letters, and with different nibs and different pens. And the practicing is there, and I'm enjoying this French ruled paper. Problem with this paper that I bought at $7 for this notebook on Amazon is the paper is really garbage. Okay, feathers, it very scratchy, very toothy. So I guess it's good for practicing, but because it's not expensive, but it's not the best quality paper. So I said to myself, well, you know what? Why don't I get what Chaque MD uses, which is Clairefontaine French ruled paper. And in fact, we communicated with each other. We wrote to each other, and he told me that they're very hard to find. He uses loose leaf sheets, but I found a bunch. And I bought like 400 sheets. Yes, they're more expensive, but they're the ones that I preferred. And the difference being that this is real French rule paper. When you compare it to this one, you could see that the square is much smaller than this one. Okay, so this kind of encouraged me to write a little bit smaller than I was in the other notebooks, and that I was in this notebook as well. So my writing got smaller and smaller. And as you could see, I started out with the handwriting is slanted, but again, it's fairly large. But as I progressed, you could see that the handwriting slowly is getting smaller. Here, I'm trying to practice my capital letters. Okay, I'm writing a little bit more deliberate, if you will. But again, I'm concentrating so much, doing things so slowly that there's no fluidity in my writing. But I keep at it, and as you can see, I'm playing around with letters that I have problems with. I have problems with the D. I have problems with my H. I don't like my O's. I don't like my B's. So I was trying to practice. Here, I'm getting to write a little bit smaller. Okay. This, in fact, I was preparing for this episode. Okay, so I'm going to give them swatches of my writing. But again, as you can see, my handwriting is quite deliberate, and my shake kind of shows up there. Okay. And I'm not happy with that. So I said, I can't continue writing this way. At the bottom here, I let myself loose a little bit. You can tell that I'm getting a little bit more familiar. Here, I'm really flying, okay? I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. And as I continue to practice, what I realized is that the next thing I had to decide on is the nib. What I realized is that if I used a normal non-stub, non-italic nib, I had a hard time controlling the line. When I used the fine, it was even more difficult. But on the other hand, I really liked that fine line because it allowed me to write a little bit smaller. Medium wasn't bad. Broad was too thick, and it was round, and I lost, kind of lose control. So I said to myself, why don't I use a stub? So I started with the normal 1.1 Yowo stubs. And here they are. Okay? So, for example, this TWSBI. As you could see, it's let me just see if you could, it's a rounded nib, okay? So, in fact, now that I'm going to be looking at nibs, let me just see if I can, I'll be right back. I'm going to adjust my camera so that you can really see what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm back. So, if you take a normal 1.1 cursive, let me just, here you go. You could see that the cursive stub has a rounded nib. That rounded nib gives you this TWSBI 1.1 cursive. You see the rounded lettering. Okay, it's very smooth, very little feedback, very soft, very nice, slippery sort of a feeling. However, when you compare it to this italics, medium italic nib, you can see that that's an italic nib. In other words, it's kind of cut straight. It's not rounded, okay? Because of that, in my case, if I slant the nib, it kind of is natural for the nib to write a slanted line. You see the slant in my italic nib facilitates the slanting of my lettering, and at the same time provides that line variation and that character. So here you have the italics medium nib. As you can see, it's a lot sharper, it's less rounded, just as smooth, by the way, but the nib is italic, so the lines are slanted naturally, okay? And what I also did is I ordered on FP nibs, I ordered Joya nibs. So this one is a medium with the italic grind. See that? So that grind is not round at all. It's very sharp. So that my line, when I twist, when I twist the pen, the line kind of follows the line of the nib, if you will. Okay? And it's not round. So it gives me that sharp line, very natural, and it's like I don't lose control. And here's the result. See this Joya italic medium grind, much more feedback, not as smooth, but it's cursive italic and it's got a lot of character. The same thing you can see, believe it or not, I took out these Metropolitan cheap pens. I think I have 7 or 8 different colors. They all have italic stubs. I haven't used them in ages, okay, because I just don't like the pen. But I've changed my mind because of that nib. If you take a look at the nib is an italic nib, just got a little bit of rounded line, just a little bit. So it's kind of in between. It's in between my, it's not as rounded, if you will, as my Twisby. Okay, it's a little sharper, but it's nice italic. And these pens are amazing for my handwriting practice. Take a look at this. This is my handwriting. The Pilot Metropolitan has an italic nib and is just right, slants nicely, but has a smooth feeling on paper. In fact, smoother than my recently Joya grinded nib from FP Nibs. This is a pen that I left behind, suddenly rescued from them because I'm using. The same thing can be said about my italic. I have another italic nib. See that? How straight edged that is. By the way, these italics nibs, for the price I paid, these are fabulous. I think Mr. Penn in the United Kingdom is shut down since, but I got a bunch of them, thank God, because I'm going to resurrect them for my handwriting. Look at that. Look at the line. You see the line? I can write that line slanted because I just have to follow the line of the italic nib. So, and this one is so smooth. It doesn't have the feedback of the Joya grinded nib. And it's smooth, and take a look at the handwriting it gives me. It's the red one here. The italics, medium italic, is another smooth writer. Look at that. It's kind of in between. It gives me thicker line than the Metropolitan, and much smoother. Same thing. I noticed that the Bach stub nibs, I have a titanium Bach stub nib there. First of all, these titanium nibs are fabulous, but that kind of gives me a feedbacky, very scratchy, well, nicely scratchy, or it's feedback. But it's been grinded again to give me that line, that italic line, and that translates into this one right here. This Bach titanium stub has an italic grind, a little more feedback, but again provides that slant. It's natural with the line variation and gives the character, and the experience is fun. So that's, whereas when you compare it to my Posilipo Mayora 1.5. Now that's a huge, I've got something on it actually. Okay. See, that's a rounded cursive stub, 1.5, huge. So I tried to see whether or not I could do anything with that. And look at the Gioia Posilipo. You could see it right here. It's just too wide and difficult to control, you know. Then I took a Gioia nib, a fine. This is a fine. And I grounded it down to, actually this is a medium, grounded it down to, I just showed you it. Yeah, I grinded it down to an italic. But that one is in fact the other Gioia, sorry. It's this one, this recent Bella Vista. This is a fine nib that I ground down to an italic grind. And this is so much fun to write with now. This is it's the bottom part here. This is the recent Gioia fine nib with italic grind. Gives a lot of feedback, but nice thin lines. So this is where I'm at. So I think that the italic nib is where I need to go from here on in. When I compared that to just regular nibs, this is the Jinao 9019 medium. You see it's nice and round, but I have to be more deliberate in my handwriting. It's not free-flowing. Same thing with my Benyu Schmidt broad nib. The same thing with that fine Aurora 88 fine gold nib. Very springy but difficult to control. Whereas I compare it to my Santini stub, which has got a kind of a cursive character to it. It's just so much more fun. So there you have it. The other thing I realized is that I used to hold my pen, you know, very low down on the section. Now I have a tendency to hold it up a little bit more higher up, and it gives me that fluidity, because the trick is for your entire arm to be, your entire arm is going to be, you know, nicely set on the desk. And just a little bit stick, you know, so, and then you can give it more flow. But if you're restricted, you don't have that movement. Whereas if you hold it up a little higher up, it just gives me, it's like a paintbrush. It gives me more flow. It gives me more fluidity, more, I'm not handcuffing myself to the point where I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. So all to say is that I've really, really, really enjoying in this. Just to let you know that I'm having just an absolute great time. And I've discovered this site, by the way, Stilo Stile, can grind your nibs now. I'm going to put it up for you. So if you're interested in grinding your nibs, you've got FP Nibs, and you've got now Stilo Stile, which offer a great service. I'm going to test them. We'll probably buy an Italian pen from them and check how they do their grinds. Oh, now, I've rambled long enough. Hopefully that's been interesting. I think my handwriting is improving. I think I'm having a lot of fun with this. Try it, folks. Try it. You'll enjoy it. And I'm finally getting to use all the nibs that I have. I'm experimenting with the italics, with the cursive, with the fine, with the medium. I'm trying to find a happy medium there. I got to tell you, those little Metropolitan Pilot pens with a stub nib, I don't know how much I paid them. Probably very little. I'm going to take them all out. I've got, I think, 10 of them in all different colors. So never throw away your pens. You never know when they might become useful again. There you have it. So thank you very much for joining me. I've rambled long enough. Hopefully this has been interesting. Try to give you a little bit tidbits, a little bit of news, a little bit of trend, a little bit of my own editorial experiences, and have fun with your pen, folks. I'm having an absolute ball. You know, what you need to do is have fun, get the therapy in, do your journaling, write with all your pens, change them up all the time, use your inks, use your nibs. Have fun, folks. Have fun. Grazie molto. Arrivederci. A fra poco. Thank you very much. We'll see you all sometime soon. Thank you.